Hi guys, I'm Lauren Germino and I will be discussing transformational leadership during my presentation. Here is a quick overview of my presentation. I will be going over key terms of transformational leadership and their definitions, a brief history, the components that make up this type of leadership, characteristics that leaders have, advantages and disadvantages, benefits it has on the followers, examples of these types of leaders, and finally, a study that I found interesting that discusses the best situation to use transformational leadership. Here are some important key terms about this type of leadership. Transformational leadership is the process of changing people, and it focuses on emotions, values, and ethics. This type of leadership satisfies the needs of their followers and treats them as human beings. It is considered to be an expansion of transactional leadership. Transactional leadership is the exchanges or transactions that occur between leaders and their followers, and it conforms to the existing structure of an organization. Transactional leaders discuss with their followers what is expected of them to meet a goal and the reward they receive when it is met. An example of transactional leadership is when a teacher gives a student a grade depending on the work they completed. The final term is pseudo-transformational leaders, which are just inauthentic transformational leaders. These types of leaders are self-consumed and power-oriented leaders that have corrupt moral values. They have strong inspirational talent, but they are also manipulative. The leader focuses on their own interests instead of the interests of their own followers. And this type of leadership threatens followers because the common good is ignored. An example of this type of leader would be Adolf Hitler. Transformational leadership is part of the new leadership paradigm, and it gives attention to both charismatic and effective elements of leadership. This type of leadership focuses on intrinsic motivation as well as follower development. There is a heavy emphasis on the relationship between leaders and followers. With transformational leadership, the leader determines what needs to be changed, creates a vision to reach this change, and then completes the change while committing to their followers. They motivate their followers to do more than what is expected of them and encourage followers to grow into their own leadership roles. Leadership has been recognized for years by historians, political scientists, and sociologists to be more than just an exchange between leaders and their followers. It must address a feeling of self-worth in the followers in order for there to be true commitment and involvement. This is what transformational leadership adds to transactional leadership. James McGregor Burns was a political sociologist that first discussed transformational leadership in his work from 1978 called Leadership. In this writing, he distinguished the difference between transformational and transactional leadership. Burns first described transformational leadership as the way leaders and followers help each other for enhanced motivations. Another researcher by the name of Bernard Bass developed an expansion of Burns's idea of transformational leadership that looked at the full range of leadership on a continuum from transformational leadership to transactional leadership to laissez-faire leadership. As discussed before, transformational leadership looks to improve their followers' performance and therefore leads to performances that are beyond expectations. Next on the continuum is transactional leadership. This is in between the two because unlike transformational leadership, it does not focus on personal development of the followers. However, expected outcomes are still met by the followers. These leaders exchange things valued by the followers, and it works because followers often are looking to receive the valuable items. The final part of the continuum is laissez-faire because with this type, there is an absence of leadership. It is a non-transactional type and it does not help their followers grow in any way. This figure can be seen on page 168 in our textbook. There are 4 components of transformational leadership, and they are the way that leaders move beyond immediate self-interest from transactional leaderships. The components are individualized consideration, inspirational motivation, idealized influence, and finally, intellectual stimulation. With individualized consideration, the leader focuses on their followers' needs and acts as a mentor for them. They are both supportive and empathetic. Creativity is supported by the leaders, and they give their followers the support needed to implement their ideas. The support leaders give will vary among their followers because it is based on each of their individual needs. In inspirational motivation, leaders are able to express ideas that both inspire and motivate their followers to achieve more than what is expected of them. These types of leaders have high standards and high expectations for their followers. They give their followers a sense of purpose and challenge, which then encourages followers to invest more time into their own abilities. Teamwork and commitment are optimistically promoted in this component. An example of this would be to encourage followers through the use of pep talks that provides them with a sense of importance to reach the end goal. In idealized influence, also known as charisma, the leaders are role models, and they are both admired and trusted by their followers because they engage in highly ethical behaviors. This is the emotional component of leadership. These types of leaders are considered to be doing the right thing since they have high moral and ethical standards, and because of this, followers have a deep respect for their leaders. Idealized influence is measured through the attributional component, which is the followers' perceptions of what their leaders are attributing, as well as the behavior component, which refers to the leaders' behaviors observed by their followers. The final component is intellectual stimulation, and these leaders will challenge assumptions and take risks. They will collaborate with their followers and their ideas to come up with creative ways to manage issues the organization faces. They encourage independence from their followers and therefore do not criticize ideas from their followers. With this component, leaders focus on what the problem is and get rid of any practice that is ineffective without hesitating. An example of this is a manager encouraging their employees to establish solutions to problems the company has faced, such as a decrease in sales. Transformational leaders must be well organized and team-oriented. They expect followers to work together to achieve the best results. These leaders are also both respected by followers as well as respectful to their followers, and are responsible for their team, but must also instill responsibility into their followers. In other words, the leader must establish a sense of responsibility among their followers. They are influential to their followers and act like a coach or mentor that provides both training and motivation to reach the intended goal. Transformational leaders must be able to assess the current situation and develop a strategy that encourages growth of the organization. In order to do so, they must be able to communicate effectively to their followers, so they clearly understand the plan, making communication an important characteristic. There are many advantages to transformational leadership. There is a sense of intuitive appeal because the leader advocates for their followers. Leadership is also a process between followers and leaders with transformational leadership, instead of exchanges between followers and leaders as it is with transactional leadership. Both the needs of followers and leaders are incorporated, which provides followers with a sense that they are an integral aspect of leadership. It also gives a broader view of leadership that helps contribute to personal growth because it provides an expanded picture of transactional leadership. Finally, it emphasizes the needs, values, and morals of followers, which suggests a moral element of leadership. Just like there are advantages, there are also disadvantages to this type of leadership. Transformational leadership lacks conceptual clarity because it incorporates a variety of activities and characteristics while also overlapping with other concepts, such as the charismatic leadership. It also treats leadership as a personality trait, and it is difficult to teach people a new trait. This can also be easily abused since it has a focus of changing others' values, but there is no agreement on who gets to decide on the best values that need to be changed. Finally, research has shown that having, quote, good leader behaviors can be costly to the leaders because it can deplete their emotions and energy when they constantly have to show enthusiasm as well as persuade their followers regardless of their own self-interest. Research has also indicated that leaders feeling emotionally exhausted leads to a greater turnover, but it was noted that this was higher when the followers had low conscientiousness and low competence. This type of leadership has many beneficial effects on their followers. First, it engages self-concepts in the interest of the goal, and it also promotes intrinsic motivation, which are behaviors driven by internal rewards. An example of this would be participating in a favorite sport because it brings joy. It also makes followers see their work activities as meaningful and aligns their work with their interests and values, which encourages productivity by the followers. Finally, it helps create a sense of trust with their leaders, which will positively affect their work and therefore the organization. Some great examples of transformational leaders from our history have been Mahatma Gandhi, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Abraham Lincoln. Gandhi was both empathetic and sympathetic to people and their problems, always putting the interests of his followers before his own and using language of the common man so they understood. He had the ability to assess situations correctly, which made him aware that to win independence for India, he had to do so in a non-violent way. He has been a guide and a mentor for his followers during his life and after, inspiring many of our great leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. Napoleon Bonaparte is the next example of transformational leadership. He was an inspiration to the people of his time because he was seen as a symbol of hope by the people. He had a strong judge of human nature and situations, which is important in transformational leadership in order to satisfy the needs of the followers. He had innovative solutions to problems and had exceptional motivational skills, which allowed him to have the impact he's had in history. He is a prime example of transformational leadership because he sought to change the world based around the changing morals. The last example of transformational leadership is Abraham Lincoln, because he too was both empathetic and sympathetic to others. Lincoln stuck with his ideals and ethical values during the most difficult times. For example, Lincoln fought to end slavery in the United States, something many of his colleagues disagreed with and felt would cause the country to divide. Despite this, Lincoln still fought to end slavery, ultimately leading to the 13th Amendment, because he knew it was ethically right. He was also a great influence, impressing both his followers while also persuading his opponents. He was able to assess the situation of both the military and the nation in order to make the best decisions and plans. As you can see, these are all excellent examples of transformational leaders because they embody many of the characteristics that make up these types of leaders in a unique way that was still successful. From these three leaders, managers can learn the importance of understanding fundamentals of human nature and how to lead and manage humans. They also understand the importance of qualities such as strong will, determination, and courage. Finally, they can learn. The last example of transformational leadership is Abraham Lincoln, because he too was both empathetic and sympathetic to others. Lincoln stuck with his ideals and ethical values during the most difficult times. For example, Lincoln fought to end slavery in the United States, something many of his colleagues disagreed with and felt would cause the country to divide. Despite this, Lincoln still fought to end slavery, ultimately leading to the 13th Amendment, because he knew it was ethically right. He was also a great influence, impressing his followers while also persuading his opponents. He was able to assess the situation of both the military and the nation in order to make the best decisions and plans, which are two key characteristics of transformational leaderships. These three leaders have accomplished extraordinary achievements by being transformational leaders, and managers can improve by using these three as examples. Managers can learn the importance of understanding fundamentals of human nature and how to lead and manage humans by using these three as an example. They can also understand the importance of qualities such as strong will, determination, and courage in being a successful leader. Finally, they can learn just how much their ability to motivate and inspire followers impacts performance. As discussed before, transformational leadership can be emotionally taxing on leaders, and it is therefore considered to be a limited resource. A study looked at the relationship between daily transformational leadership behavior and employee engagement through questionnaires filled out by elementary school teachers. The results indicated that transformational leadership is best used when job demands are high for the day because followers are challenged, which allows leaders to stimulate their job performance. These high demands could mean a high level of cognitive demands, a heavy workload, or a role conflict where the employees must deal with conflicting assignments, leading to a lack of focus. Here is my list of references. Please reach out to me with any questions you may have regarding transformational leadership or my presentation in general. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.